Welcome, everyone. I can see many people are joining the line right now, so we'll give everyone a few minutes to allow more attendees to join, and we will be starting the session shortly. Thank you so much. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I am hoping you're all having a fantastic Wednesday so far. And I would again like to welcome everyone and thank you for joining us for Max People and Humi by Employment Hero session titled Upgrade Your HR Operations, a tech-enabled approach for 2025. My name is Christina Binder, and I am the Training and Development Coordinator at Max People, and I will be assisting with the production and moderation for today. This session is facilitated by Anna Ali, Senior Director HR Services at Max People, and Matthew Byler, Senior Channel Partner Manager at Humi by Employment Hero. Before we get started, I first want to thank them for taking the time to be with us here today. We are so excited about our partnership with Humi by Employment Hero, and we are thrilled for you and Anna to share your knowledge with all of us today. So I just want to do a few quick housekeeping items. So today's session is intended to have a Q&A portion towards the latter half, and we encourage you to submit your questions at any time using the chat function. I will be keeping track of these questions, and I will moderate them at the end of the session. Also, at the end of this session, there is a resource available for all attendees to download and a QR code to scan to book a Humi by Employment Hero demo. For every demo booked until the end of July, you'll receive a $25 Skip the Dishes gift card. To ensure high quality of the webinar, I ask you to ensure that you have a strong internet connection, and please close on all and any unnecessary browser pages and apps running in the background of your computer. If you are still experiencing quality issues during the session, please feel free to try and exit and re-enter the live stream via the link that was sent to you during registration. And the webinar today is also being recorded and will be available for viewing afterwards. Without further ado, I will pass it over to our facilitators to begin.
Perfect. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Matt Byler, and I'm the Senior Manager of Strategic Partnerships for Humi by Employment Hero. I've been in the employment tech space for nearly about a decade now, and I've worked for various industry-leading providers like Ceridian, Dayforce, HiBob, Rise, and now I'm super thrilled to be part of the incredible team of Humi by Employment Hero. So I'm really looking forward to today's conversation and excited to share some great insights around a tech-enabled approach to modern workspace solutions. I'll pass it over to Anna.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Matt. For those who don't know me, my name is Anna. I work for Max People. I'm the Senior HR Director here, and I lead our HR Consulting division. I really appreciate everybody taking the time out to join us at their lunch hour today. I am super passionate about this topic, as many of you who have interacted with me in the past might know. So I'm excited that we're going to be talking about the collaboration between HR and technology and how this marriage, quote unquote, makes our lives as leaders and HR professionals much easier. So without further ado, I'm going to skip over to our agenda, and I hope that everybody finds this session valuable. We are aiming to wrap up and allow some time at the end of the session for questions and answers. However, if you have a burning question that you'd like to put in the chat, please do so you don't get to forget. In terms of our agenda today, we're going to be focusing on these key topics. So how do we enhance HR through technology? So why HR needs technology, the benefits behind an HRIS system, the best practices for adoption, maximizing current tools, and the future of HR technology. Having Matt here from Humi by Employment Hero really helps us kind of add in that HR technology expertise. And I'll be speaking on behalf of my end user experience of using Humi by Employment Hero, and also helping our clients, sign on with Humi and other HR platforms to enable their HR functions. All right, so I'm gonna maybe ask Matt. Matt, in your opinion, why do you think technology matters, or why do HR folks need technology?
Yeah, it's a great starting question there. So I think HR professionals need technology because it really drives like efficiency, it reduces errors, it improves decision making, and it enhances the overall employee experience. It's going to also automate like the time consuming tasks like payroll and onboarding. It really does ensure that compliance, and it provides real data that empowers strategic, people first decisions. But here's like the catch, right? It's not just about technology. Great HR tech, it's really only as powerful as the people that really utilize it and the people that are behind it. So it's kind of like that chicken before the egg situation,
Right.
right? Tech really needs great people just as much as HR needs great tech.
Right.
So one without the other is kind of like a treadmill in a power outage, right? It's
Right.
technically there, but it's not going anywhere. So successful HR systems really rely on like thoughtful implementation and consistent day-to-day management. And without that, even the most advanced platforms can fall flat. So it really is that people touch and that platform that makes that real impact.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree with everything you've said. I've also would say a lot of times folks run into the implementation too quickly without making sure that their data is, clean. And it's, I remember this analogy like garbage in, garbage out. You have to make sure that whatever you are, importing or implementing into part of this system makes sense. It's clean data. And at times, I think that's the exercise that takes a lot of time when we start to talk about implementation of HR technology. So I'm gonna just kick off the session by this quote. Take a couple of seconds to kind of digest. So the best way to predict the future is to create it. This is by Peter Drucker, and really, I would say long gone are the days where we're still talking about, okay, the future of HR. I think it's here today. I think technology and the need for technology is happening, and it's almost a necessity, I would say, even for our small to medium sized clients. I'm not talking about the large scale. I think for them, it's already happened due to scalability. But I'd even say for small to medium sized clients, it's becoming more and more a need because HR is no longer just about hiring and payroll. It's about strategy, it's about the employee experience, and technology is at the heart of all of this transformation, right? Making sure that HR is engaging folks and it's not just about the administrative function. And I think we're seeing that day in and day out, especially when we talk about retaining and engaging top talent.
For sure. And I have a question for you, like, in your opinion, like why does like technology even matter in HR to you?
Yeah, and I think that's important because I mean, there's the no-brainer answer to this, which is like efficiency and automation, right? Like just making sure that you are doing things that, may take you, let's say, 5 minutes to input an employee, data into a Word document or an Excel document by an HR administrator. It could be done very easily within seconds on an online platform as part of the onboarding, process. So there's definitely automation that helps free up HR professionals' time to focus on more strategic initiatives. I also think another important one that I think is becoming more and more kind of critical is data-driven decision making. So making sure that you have quickly available employee data like headcount, turnover, DEI information, even age groups, that's important as well, right? So it's important to have that information readily available. This allows HR to, tie up to the business goals and help in the business decision making. And then scalability and growth. Onboarding one person a month is easier, but if you're going through a hiring spree and you have 10 new hires, that can become an administrative nightmare because you're going, chasing people for tax forms, trying to understand how to get them, their email address set up. All of that could be easily, kind of scalable, automated through a technology like a Humi by Employment Hero platform or other HRS platforms. So I would say as the organizations grow, become more strategic, become more agile, the technology piece becomes more critical. All right, I'm going to move over to our next slide here. So this is a polling question, and I guess I want to engage the audience here a little bit. When you look at your journey with HR and technology, we've kind of described 3 situations here. Situation one being that you're just kind of exploring HR techs, or you're, kind of a beginner in this space and looking at options for your organization and your team. Situation two being that you're already using an HRIS platform, but you're not maximizing it. And that could be due to several reasons. Maybe it's a capacity issue, maybe it's a training issue. And then situation number three is you're looking for a better solution. So you currently have something, but it's not working, and you're looking for something else. So I'd love for the team to engage here a little bit and talk to us about what your experience is and where you are in this process. Okay.
And if there's anything other than those three, it'd be great to hear your input.
Yeah. I know when I started my journey looking at HR technology, it was because it wasn't working for our organization. So Max People was going through kind of a transformation when it comes to our performance management system and our leadership team and our org design. And we just needed a system that was a little bit more agile, that would speak to kind of how we like to do performance reviews and provide feedback. And when I was looking for the vendor, kind of going through my vendor selection, that was a big kind of piece for me, was how flexible and agile and is the system, or am I working with kind of pre-built templates that I don't have choice to add, delete, modify. So that's where I was when I was in my selection journey a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, yeah, sorry, go ahead, Matt.
I just think it's so important also when you are like evaluating HR tech to also think about the other members of your organization, like finance and IT, and even the end user, like your employees, right? Maybe you're just trying to solve one thing, but you can maybe look at it as an overall problem solver when you look at all the things that HRIS can do for you.
Okay, perfect. And where do you see typically clients coming in when you are having kind of an initial exploratory conversation, Matt?
In all of these stages, absolutely,
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's a great point, right? Is you shouldn't just come explore HRIS if it's just one problem solver that you're trying to solve for yourself. Look at it holistically, right? Talk to your decision makers, talk to your users, maybe create an engagement survey, find out what people need, right? And then come to the table with all of the needs and pain points, and that should really help give you a better solving solution.
Yeah, I love the idea of serving the team, because I think that's important in the decision making, because a lot of times it's a no-brainer for the HR administrator or generalist or the manager, because it's going to make their life easy. But what are the employees and managers wanting in your organization? Maybe it's better, more, having a self-serve option, right? Or being more responsive, or having, reporting data available. So I think that's a great point around serving your audience and understanding what their needs are as well.
Well, and there's just so many different levels, right? From like, if you look at an employee, right, you want something that's engaging for them, right? If we look at like onboarding an employee, like the typical archaic way of onboarding is, hey, here's a bunch of paperwork.
Yeah.
Let's get you started day one. Fill out all these documents and sign it, right? And it doesn't really give a great impression for the first day of an employee, right? They want something that's modern. They want something that's exciting and engaging.
Yes.
Right? So looking at it from the lens of all different angles, not just an HR person or a manager, but looking at it from that employee level, the decision-making level, right?
No, I agree. And I always tell our clients that the onboarding starts before day one. It's before they even start at your company. It's how they feel about joining. What are all the preparatory information you've given them prior to day one? And one of them being, the introduction email from, welcome to our company. We want to know more about you. All the great stuff that Humie by Employment Hero can do as part of their onboarding module. All right, so we're going to move on to the next section. And I think this is important because it kind of highlights the evolving HR landscape. So I touched upon this briefly, but I think it's important to understand, and it's, that HR's role is moved from administrative function to more of a strategic business partner. And the importance of this shift is also understanding how HR technology can enable this shift. As an organization, we mentioned this before as well, it's important to look at the improved employee experience. So how do we make HR administration or HR information seamless and easy for the employee to access through a self-serve option, access to pay slips, being able to request time off, being able to look at, what's included in my benefits package, and even recording your own training. So things like that really do add on to the employee experience, and also for a manager, ease of managing their team, right? So having that technology, having that platform where they can easily go in and say, okay, I can go in and approve vacation time. I'm not waiting for, my HR manager to come into the office so I can then submit the vacation request in person. It just improves the management and the employee experience from that standpoint.
Yeah. And I have a question for you, actually. So let's say there's a company that's not using HR, right? They're just sticking to status quo manual processes, let's call it. What are some of the bottlenecks that organizations face when they don't use technology?
No, and that's a great question. We see this quite often when we're onboarding new clients, many of which are, have some sort of process or system, but there are, a certain population of clients out there that come in and they don't have any system. And what we see here, so some of the risk areas that we see here include accuracy. So there is errors. There's errors in data. There's errors because it's manually being inputted or manually being calculated, right? And some of these areas, these errors can be, can cost them money because of compliance issues, right? Efficiency, so the time wasted on administrative tasks by either, a payroll manager, an HR manager, or the leadership team. We see that quite often. We also see compliance issues. So there's a higher risk of violations because you're not doing record keeping in a proper manner, especially when it comes to payroll. And then scalability. We see that when a company goes from 10 to 50, processes break when they're done manually, right? So having a technology platform helps with that enablement. And then a poor employee experience. Many times we get complaints, oh, HR takes too long to reply. I emailed them 2 weeks ago about a question about my dental coverage and I never heard back from them, right? So we hear that. We hear that quite often. And then just not having access to real-time reporting or analytics. So not having access to headcount, turnover, and other important information that an HRS platform can provide can really, limit an organization's decision-making kind of abilities.
Yeah. And I noticed like when people or organizations are so used to their ways, right? Like without the use of technology, maybe they've been with a company for 30 years and they've always done it that way, right? Why make change, right? Don't break something that doesn't need to be fixed, right? That comes up all the time is they're fearful of changing their ways, even though technology can help alleviate a lot of the pain points and streamline a lot of their efficiencies.
Yeah.
So if you are in that position where you're kind of afraid to make change, I would kind of keep an open glass or open mind about how this could help improve your business. And then another thing that I fear, or not fear, but I see is that, a lot of companies just don't want to make the change, right? So they're almost fearful that, hey, if I take on technology, am I afraid of losing my job? Because
that's it.
All of these administrative tasks I'm spending so much time doing every day, day in, day out, is that going to be alleviated and now no longer my job's needed? That is absolutely not the right way to go about it.
No way.
What technology really does is it alleviates those administrative burdens and allows you to be a lot more productive and a lot more efficient on other areas that you can really put a lot more focus towards, right?
Exactly.
So again, like that manual and time-consuming process, right? Having to look at reports and make sense of them all from Excel spreadsheets and documents. When it's all consolidated in one place, easy, accessible with real-time reporting, it's going to help you make a lot more educated business outcomes and decisions, right? And then there's also that chance of human error, right? Having that technology in place can eliminate those errors, right? Of like the manual data entry and the inconsistent record keeping, right? There's just so many different levels of bottlenecks that can come up, right? When you're trying to scale your organization, right? You might be able to get by with how things are now, but if you start growing and scaling and managing a lot more employees, there's just a lot more data that you need to keep track of, right? And then on the other end, when more and more people come in and they might want to have a more modern approach to the business, they might want to have that accessibility to seeing their documents, digitizing their documents, having visibility into their information and accessibility to request vacation time and do a nice performance review. So it's just kind of an all around, better experience when you enable technology.
No, I agree. And I think another very common trend and kind of a scary point that we see with some of our, small to medium sized, businesses, that we speak to frequently is a lot of this information is stored in one person's head. So like the payroll manager or the HR manager, and there's no backup, there's no contingency plan. And this opens up the, organization for a lot of risk because, what if this person wins the lottery and it's off on their cruise to, I don't know, somewhere in the coast of Europe or something. Then what happens, right? Like who's the backup here, and who will help out when they're not around, or if they choose to leave the organization. So I think having all that documented, and one piece that I like to challenge my clients with when they say, okay, we just don't want to change, everything's working, why I've said it, is the cost of not changing in these situations, in situation A, B, or C, where somebody leaves the organization, where you maybe there's some sort of data compromising, activity like a phishing or something that happens to your information locally on your computers. Where's your data stored? How secure is it? Because all these things are happening right now with businesses, right? So we need to be very mindful of it and prepare our clients for it, so that they're better equipped, right?
Yeah, and Anna, we're saying a lot of great things. Oh, technology, it's amazing, but like, what are some of the misconceptions that you find about the use of technology?
Some misconceptions I would say is that, people sometimes sign up for a platform and think that it's a solution to all their problems. It does not. You still need good people operating the system, right? So good, capable, trained employees that are entering the data, that are keeping it current, that are keeping it, using it to its fullest ability. So you can sign up for the best platform ever, but if you're not using it correctly, it's not going to solve any problems. So I think in addition to adopting the technology, the training piece is critical, and adopting that change as a company and practicing it is very important as well. I use this analogy, but garbage in and garbage out, making sure your data is clean, updated. That typically takes a lot of time. That's the piece that I find kind of the painful piece, is getting the data together before we ship it off into the system, is always the part that people find it's easier, and there's a misconception around that. Also, that the data may not be secure. There's a fear of that, but I think that's incorrect due to the sophistication of systems today. I don't think that would matter in today's kind of landscape. But these are some of the misconceptions. Another one I've heard is that it may take too long or too many resources. But I think nowadays, and I know, having spoken to my onboarding experience, through the use of key milestones, shared responsibility with the onboarding team, for me, it was with Humi. It's not that bad if you're able to break it out into phases and understand kind of what's expected and by what time. I know technology implementation sometimes has a scary reputation that it's gonna go sideways. Things are gonna fall from the wayside. But as long as there's something that's anticipated change, you're planning for it, you're making sure that the data is clean when it's being uploaded. It could help in the process. So those are some of the misconceptions I've come across. Any thoughts from your end?
Very similar to what you mentioned, right? Technology is not going to solve all your problems if you don't have a right person behind it to evaluate, implement, change management, roll it out effectively, and then continue day-to-day support with the technology, right? So if you don't have an HR expert, Max People would be a great person to work with. They're experts in technology as well, but they're also experts in HR, right? When we look at all those stages of evaluation, right, like going through sales, right, talking to these vendors and getting a demonstration, right, every salesperson is going to try and sell you that it's the right product, right? So I always challenge you to build that credibility with that salesperson, test them. I love the question of asking them is, hey, what do you find are the biggest strengths and weaknesses of your technology, right? If they're not willing to identify what the technology's weaknesses are, then I don't think they're very trusting to be with at the point.
Mhm.
So yeah, building that evaluation just from the sales level is extremely important. And then when you are evaluating, don't just look at the technology for solutions, right? Look at how the company is as a whole, right? How long they're going to be around for, how many clients do they support? What does the implementation expectations look like from your end as well as the support from the vendor? Again, what does the support look like if there's a problem? Like, you have to look at it from a holistic lens.
No, and I agree. And I think one of the questions I do remember asking is, when clients leave your software or, don't want to use the software anymore, what are the reasons? Is it because of cost? Is it because of functionality? So it's always interesting to understand, from the salesperson's side of things, of the limitations and why clients don't end up using them after a couple of months and what those reasons are.
Yeah, and I would kind of highly refrain from finding the cheapest solution.
No.
Sometimes the cheapest solution will just cause more time and more pains, right?
For sure.
Speaking about that, then, Anna, is what should you choose, or what should you consider when choosing like an HRIS?
Yeah, I think that's the exercise that I think needs some thought when you're planning out your kind of vendor selection journey. I did this exercise back in 2021 for Max People, and I think it was helpful to have a spreadsheet with like a criteria, and that way I was able to kind of update each vendor's kind of key features, cost, limitations, and then when I was making the business case to the leadership team at Max People, it was easier for me to kind of do the pros and cons for each option. I think the one key kind of factor is functionality. So what does it have? What modules are included? Does it have key functions like records management, payroll benefits integration, time and attendance tracking, recruitment and onboarding, performance management, and then learning and development? Another key feature would be the user experience. So what is there ease of use for the users? Is there accessibility from a cell phone, like through an app? Because that's kind of, the future or today really. And is there self-service capabilities for employees and managers? The third kind of feature would be integration capability. So can it integrate with other platforms or systems that your company is using? So can it connect to your payroll system, your ERP system? And in terms of custom integration, so is it flexible enough to do that? Then a really important one is compliance and security. So what's their data privacy policy? What about regulatory compliance? Where is data being stored? And then scalability and flexibility. So can you add additional modules? What are those modules? What is the customization options? So that was important to me. So this is ability to customize reports and forms and templates. And then can you use it at different sites? So if you're an organization that has multi-site kind of operations, is it able to scale according to that? Then the last 2 points are around reporting and analytics, and then vendor support and reliability. Do you have customer service support, technical support, implementation support, and then the most important part, cost and ROI. So what's the cost per user? What's the return on investment? What does the implementation timeline look like? And then getting employee feedback on it as well. So these are some of the kind of key features or kind of what I would have on my spreadsheet when I'm looking at different vendors and selecting an HRIS system. For
sure. And like what you just said there, if a vendor can solve 85% of those needs, sign on the dotted line right away.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. And I think when you know when it's meeting your needs. And I think you also should categorize and prioritize your needs as an organization. What is it that you're looking for? You're not going to find everything in one platform. So that's the perfect solution may not exist. You may be very close to it. So you may be 95% there.
And you flip it around, sometimes the processes that you're doing today without technology might need to be altered for it to work with technology, right?
True. Yes, I agree with that.
So that's why I would say, like, a great system that can solve 85% of your needs without having to change or manipulate any of your processes, that's a great solution for you. The other 85%, you might need to do a little bit of changes within your processes that you do manually to adjust it into the technology. And again, that's where the leverage of a great HR person or expert like Max People can really help drive home for you.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. We can move over to our next slide now, and that's focusing on assessing your needs. So I think we kind of dabbled in that question, but I think it's important that you're not only looking at what type of HRIS system, but I know, Matt, you just alluded to that. What
Mm-hmm.
are your current processes? So you don't want to upload a broken process into a system for it to continue to be broken, right? So you want to make sure you're looking at your current HR processes. How are we onboarding? How are we offboarding? What happens if someone wants to request vacation? What does the approval kind of system look like? Strain that out first, right? And that's something that I would think that, if you are kind of lost in that area or just kind of, scratching your head saying, like, how do I start that? Call us. We're HR professionals. That's one of the things that we help our clients with. It could be as simple as standard operating procedures, or even an employee manual sometimes helps with that, getting policies around, things like vacation and time off and personal time off. So we're here to help in that realm to understand what are HR best practices when it comes to HR processes before we even get into the world of technology.
Yeah. And I know, like, when you think of like HRIS, like human resources information system, right? What does that imply to you as far as like capabilities and scope?
Yeah, I would say it needs to have, core functions like time reporting. Like, that's a very important one to me. So that includes vacation and, other time tracking capabilities, payroll, employee data management, and it needs to be clean. Like, I'm all about the user experience. So clean, agile, and intuitive. If it looks and feels clunky, then I think it's going to be very hard to get folks to adopt it. Especially we're in that era now where everything needs to be accessible, fast, quick, few clicks, because our brain's wired that way, thanks to social media and other tools that we're using. So if it's not engaging and intuitive and agile, you're going to lose people. So I would say this would be kind of my top features in an HRIS system.
For sure. And like, gosh, there's so many words out there that define technology for human resources, like HRIS. There's also a term called human capital management. HUMI, we actually like to call it employment platform, right? If you think about like a Canadian employee, what are the aspects of an employee, right? Well, employees usually get benefits. Employees have to follow HR guidelines and have documents and be able to track their time. And before they even get hired, there's a hiring process, right? And then there's payroll. So when I think of HRIS, I actually think of employment. And that's what we've shifted the term HRIS to an employment platform, covering more of an all-in-one spectrum around HR, payroll, time, HR talent, like performance and surveys and engagement that all flow to payroll, right? So it really is like that one-stop shop. And that's what I think is a great HRIS tool.
No, I think that's awesome. And I think tying that back to what you just described would be like the employee life cycle, right? Starting from like recruitment, onboarding, and all the other stages that are important. So that's ideal.
Okay, so let's talk about like implementing now. Like, how can implementing an HRIS system help towards an organization being like compliant?
Yeah, I would say the biggest takeaway would be minimizing errors. So minimizing errors in record keeping and ensuring that there's a process that is documented. This is particularly important when we think about how employee information is being stored. You may be aware of certain legislative requirements on storing employee data. There's payroll requirements, there's training requirements, and there's also vacation tracking requirements. So that is a big, I would say, sell towards being compliant and implementing an HR system. We're moving away from the days of like hard copies being filed away, or someone, or one person in the organization tracking vacation on a spreadsheet. There's room for human error there, right? And things like that, when flagged by, either an employee to say, hey, this vacation calculation looks off. How did you calculate it, right? Then we get into like really tricky, sensitive areas. It's like, okay, well, if there was human error, how are we going to make up for that? So then there's a cost associated with it. It gets really messy. So I would say the minimizing of human error and record keeping is the biggest piece around being compliant through an HRIS system.
Well, what first thing that came to my mind is just the storing of HR records of information, right?
Yeah.
Having the ability for self-service. It shouldn't really be the responsibility of an HR person or an owner to keep track of everyone's record of information, right? Let the employees have that ability to make updates to their changes, like an address change, or they've added on and they have a child now, or anything, right? Keeping real-time data with the accessibility for them to update those records, and then you have the ability to report on real time, makes you a lot more compliant. Think about just like running a report on allergies, right? If you're hosting an event, right? You just pull up a report because that all of that information is consolidated.
Yeah. One key feature that I found that's often overlooked but very important in situations where we need to contact employees, like families and stuff, is emergency contact information. And I've been in situations, unfortunately, with clients where, and even myself, when I was in-house HR, where we've had to quickly find, who do we contact? We can't find this employee because they didn't report into work, or something happened to them at work, like an accident. We need that emergency contact information within seconds, right? And having a platform that would quickly give you that versus looking through 50, files, right, in a filing cabinet makes a difference. So I would say it's one feature that's often overlooked, but super critical when we're ever in those situations.
And when you started thinking about that, I started thinking like maybe there's something that's happening in the workplace. We need to terminate an employee, or what are the lists of tasks and responsibilities that we need to do as a company to properly offboard this person, right? You can create these automations of tracking assets and tasks assigned to specific people to offboard somebody. Same with onboarding, right? Building those type of automations to keep track of how to properly go about those procedures could be very easily created within the technology.
No, I agree.
Okay, so let's say for those people that are listening, right, they're interested, right, but they might need buy-in from their leaderships or from their employees. How can people that are interested sort of get that buy-in?
So this is a typical kind of business case scenario where, it's important to highlight or provide information on the ROI. So it's an investment, clearly. And I understand in today's economy, the spend is tight on certain things. And I get that. I'm totally understanding of that. But I think it's important for HR professionals to really measure the time that they're using, doing these administrative tasks and the errors that are being caused, and then the rework. So then going back and fixing those errors and the cost associated with that. So there's a time and a cost piece that can be quickly kind of resolved by introducing a platform like, Humi by Employment Hero. And then their time is freed up focusing on more strategic initiatives, such as, learning and development initiatives for the organization, employee engagement initiatives, and they're not bogged down, 2 hours a day record keeping, right? So I would say that type of a breakdown is essential. Also, I think a lot of times payroll errors, so any errors in payroll or processing of payroll, can result into compliance and cost issues. I think highlighting those for the leadership team would be really helpful. And just the enhancement of the employee experience. I know that's a hard metric to measure, but I do think and I'm going to speak a little bit about generational differences, but as we're engaging the new generation in the workforce, as we're building new leaders within the workforce, I think we need to make sure that their employee experience is seamless, rewarding, engaging, and that they don't feel like the back end of the company is so clunky that they can't get simple things from HR, right? So the self-service feature being built in from like day one, so that they know where their data is being stored, how easily accessible, it looks nice and clean, can really enhance the employee experience as well.
Yeah, I like that. To get buy-in, I think like you have to look at it from different lenses, right? What's the return on investment for employees? What's the return on investment for managers? What's the return on investment for decision makers, right? For leaders, focus on how the technology supports strategic goals like improving the efficiency and reducing the costs and enhancing the talent management. For employees, like look at how it can highlight their daily work lives a lot easier and speed up their processes, having those self-service options, better access to information. From an HR person, think about like, hey, this is an engaging solution. It's getting more eyes on my announcements. I'm able to provide a very clean and modern hiring process, an onboarding process. This excites employees. It gets them motivated to work for your company. So yeah, always looking at different lenses, I find will help provide that buy-in. Also look at like the hard costs of ROI and even like the soft costs.
No, I think it's important. And I think when we're looking at our needs and introduction of like HR and technology, it's you can't have this discussion without looking at change management, because it will be changing of behaviors, whether it be from HR side, management side, or the employee side. So when you are looking at implementing a technology such as an HRS system, it's important to also look at it from a change management perspective. Okay, how are we going to be dealing with the different phases of change management? Which, phase one being what's the issue here? What are we trying to resolve, right? How do we kind of rally the troops and get them excited about this change? And then how do we provide them with tools, resources, FAQ guides, whatever it's needed, right? Training sessions to get people on board, to get people to start using it. And then what's super important, like 90 days into implementation, getting feedback. Hey, how was it? Is it meeting your needs? What can we improve? What can we do better next time, right? So things like that are super important. And if you're in that journey or beginning to start it, I'd be more than happy to chat with any one of you, because that's something that I'm passionate about and can kind of brainstorm with HR professionals. Also, customization versus complexity. I think sometimes we see nice, shiny solutions and are like, okay, yeah, sign me up for everything, right? And maybe we might make things very complicated for our teams, right? So I think look for what fits your organizations. Baby steps is always recommended. Don't overcomplicate it. And it's always a fine line between what's necessary and what your wants are, right? So I would say, as an early adopter of technology, I get super excited and say, okay, yes, I love all these features, but I only end up using 50% of it, right? So I would say just kind of, keep a reality check as to, what do we actually need here and what are the teams going to get most excited about?
And at the end of the day, you got to find something that's super easy to use for employees, right? Yeah. Have something that's very cumbersome and intuitive for the HR experts that can facilitate it day to day, but make sure that it's super easy to use for your employees. There's going to be a change management regardless, but the easier that tool is for them to use, the better it's going to be.
For sure. Now, Matt, I have a question for you. What's on the horizon for Humie by Employment Hero when we look at the future?
Yeah, I can speak about what's on the horizon for Employment Hero. Also, just for any like leading HR tech providers, I think it's really focusing more on like the AI-driven automation now, the streamlined workflows, and again that enhancement of the user experience, which certainly align to a lot of the top trends that the HR leaders are more aware of now. AI can significantly enhance HRIS systems by automating like routine tasks such as like candidate screening or employee onboarding and even payroll processes, right? So this is going to save time and it reduces that human error. It reduces like the smarter data analysis, providing like predictive analytics, predictive insights, and that helps teams like identify a lot more different trends like employee turnover or different skill gaps that become a lot more critical. So I love the idea of AI, like the chat bot with AI to help improve the employee experience by offering instant answers to like common HR questions. An employee can just keyword search a few things, like show me something in the employment agreement that I need to keep an eye on. It'll pull that up for you, right? So a lot of AI is going to be built within these leading HR vendors today. And I think that's a huge gain for any customer that's looking to move forward with it.
That's perfect. And I can tell you when I was in discussions with Humie like 3-ish years ago, one of the questions I asked was, what's on the horizon for like, what kind of modules are you working on right now that I'd see coming in the next year or so? And they met their promise for sure. Whatever they listed definitely did come down the pipeline. And I've seen the evolution of a platform like Humie. So I'd highly encourage the team here, if you are looking at options, do ask the platform provider, like what's happening in your future? What are you investing towards? What kind of developments are going to be coming down the pipeline? So that the future, their future and kind of your future are aligned as a company and them as a service provider.
Also, if you're going to ask them, like ask if they've ever, what's the record of keeping the roadmap deliverables, right? Yeah. If there's a vendor that has said something or promised something and haven't actually met them, that's a big red flag there.
Yes, no, for sure. I agree. Thank you for those insights. So we're going to now, we're coming towards the end of our presentation. As promised, we wanted to open up the floor for the team. But before we get into that, we do have an exciting offer. So I'll let Matt, if you wanted to just kind of overview on the exciting offer by our participants.
Yeah, so I've put our QR code here, and that enables you to book a demo to educate yourself on our platform. We can certainly have a demo expert give you a high-level overview and even tailor the demo specific to your organization's needs. If you do book through here, we're going to offer some really nice preferred rates. We will also give a free implementation, but we also want to treat you for lunch on us. So if you're just interested in exploring, book through here. Once it gets booked, we will send you a $25, I believe, Skip the Dishes gift card, so you can treat yourself to a nice lunch on Humi.
That's awesome. That's an amazing offer. I hope you get lots of takes on that one. And then from Max People, we actually have a QR code up on top. If you scan that, you can get our HR checklist and a free HR consult with our HR consulting team. So we can tackle any specific question that you might be wondering about, or if you are in the initial stages of, I'm an HR person looking at platforms, what helped you make a decision? I'm more than happy to chat about that as well. So if you scan that barcode, you can get a free consult as well with our team. Awesome. Now we're going to open up the chat for questions. Apologies, because I believe there is a little bit of a delay in the question showing up on our side. So just bear with us if we don't see your question instantly, but we are addressing questions now. So the floor is yours. If you have any questions related to HR, technology, Humi specifically, we have Matt here joining us who can also help us with that.
So I actually have had some questions come through on our other channels. So this is a great question after the discussion about the top trends in the future. So what are some top trends human resources leaders should be aware of beyond 2025?
Interesting.
So did we not answer that? I thought it was more around enhancing employee experience, definitely AI driven. I would think also having like an open API integration is another key factor as well. Like a lot of companies, if you look at the employment experience, HR, payroll, benefits, there's also accounting, there's also financials. So having to ERP, maybe even like integrate with best of breed tools if you have like a big tech stack, or just like the more required tools like an accounting solution, right? So open APIs are a must. That's definitely something that Humi by Employment Heroes actively looking in, and again, continuously trying to strive for user friendliness, better employee experience.
Yeah, and I would say just given kind of the changing of the work arrangement, so making sure that those factors are kind of addressed. So like, maybe having a field in there, is this employee a hybrid employee? Is this a remote employee? So then you're able to kind of run data on that. One question I had recently was, is it possible to add a field around like visas, like, what kind of like work visa capabilities, because our clients are hiring folks outside of, the normal kind of working arrangement across the nation, across the border. So things like that, because the employment arrangement is getting more complex now in the future, may be something that, to be considered when you are looking at your HR platform.
And then also from the lens of like compliance too, like HR, things are always changing in Canada and in the world too, right? It's always being proficient on what new laws, new things are happening. SOC 1, SOC 2, PIPEDA, the list goes on with data privacy protection. So always being ahead of the curve on that. There's other trends out there too, like concierge of HR and whistleblowing. There's a lot of cool things that are coming out from a global aspect that could be great too. And then when I like to think of it too, like companies are becoming more hybrid, more remote, having the flexibility to hire remotely or hire abroad, finding solutions where we can support that as well. Great question.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Any
Thank you
questions?
so much. And this one kind of ties into, Matt, what you were saying about the integration. So maybe if you want to go into more detail on this question that we received is, how can organizations ensure that their HRIS integrates smoothly with other existing systems? So maybe if you want to go into more detail on that.
Oh gosh, I need like an IT expert to answer all this question. I think that it's really all dependent on the tech stack that you have, right? And keep in mind, the word integration is always misused a lot of ways. If you have great reporting that can export and import and field map into a different solution, that's not a bad integration right there. It's just one click away. But like an open API that can actually sync data into the other system in real time, that's an even better solution. So I guess like integration is a great thing to have. Also look at maybe improving the tech stack by optimizing your systems, right? Not having so many best of breed solutions that have to speak to one another, but maybe reducing those into like, maybe just one or just a handful of things that speak to one another.
All right, phenomenal. And just taking a look at the chat, we're going to leave this screen up for a little bit longer so you have the chance to scan out those QR codes and then to ask any questions that you may have. As mentioned before, there is a little bit of a delay, so we will be putting up this slide just for the time being and having this slide up.
Mm-hmm.
And I did have one come through on another channel, and this was talked about briefly during our session. So maybe we can just go into maybe more of a high level on how an HRIS can assist with employee engagement.
So yeah, I can talk about it, and I think I mentioned it very briefly, but when we think about employee engagement, we like to look at the employee life cycle, right? So when you make the decision to hire someone, how the employment offer is presented to the candidate, and their experience starts from then, right? So are they feeling welcomed? Is it easy? I remember when, many years ago, showing up to like day one on the job with like my hard copy SIN card and like somebody taking a photocopy. Like that was the like previous era of like employee onboarding. You should not feel like that anymore, where you're bringing in paperwork and like, hard copies of like stuff that has to get photocopied. It's fine, but it's a lot of time wasted on day one. You'd rather be, 9 a.m., show up at your desk with some nice company swag, or this may be even remotely, greeted by your manager, and all this stuff has already been taken care of. And I think that also creates a little bit of excitement towards day one as well, versus it being, okay, we're going to come in and do paperwork for the first 1 hour, right? So getting all that stuff done prior to day one. We actually use a simple questionnaire before people start here at Max People, where we like to ask them, if we were to take you out to your favorite restaurant or shopping, what would that be? And the reason why we ask that is because when we do reward and recognition, we like to buy gift cards from those retailers, or like, get to know you, a little bit of a blurb about get to know the new employee, so that can be shared with their team in advance, so that when they meet Anna on day one, they know that, Anna's favorite color is purple and she likes, iced coffee or whatever, or matcha, because I guess that's the trend these days. But yeah, things like that. So I think it's important to like have that from a new employee experience. And then for current employees, I think the delay in getting information and with simple questions really creates, a lot of disengagement and a lot of anxiety, and like I think bad feelings towards HR, because HR has a lot on their plate, especially in small to medium-sized businesses. And when it comes to like reporting requests for vacation or an address change or adding a beneficiary, this should be easy from a self-serve perspective, because our life is self-serve, from the grocery store to the bank to everywhere else. So why should it be different in the workplace, right? Why can't it be as easy as me just logging into my phone and changing my address versus, submitting a request to my manager, that getting approved by the HR manager, and then I'm waiting, okay, is it done now? Can I submit a claim? So it just creates a lot of kind of, I would say, let down, and just a lot of like just useless, I would say.
I want to add to that. Like, so before me being in tech, I used to be a petroleum engineer. And
Oh, wow.
My first day was like, here's a bunch of paperwork, fill it all out. And I'm like, what is this company all about? It's so archaic, right?
Yeah.
So I really think
Yeah.
enabling technology makes your company more modern, and that's going to help retrain and attract and retrain top talent, right? They might have come from a company that's very modern and it has these tools and features and functionality. If they come to your company that has nothing, they're gonna realize that, and they're gonna think maybe not so positively about your company because they're used to that modern approach of going into an organization. So keeping up with the times, giving that great experience, I think will help retain that talent as well.
Amazing. And I can also say that when I got onboarded into Max People using Humi, it was an amazing experience. It really made me felt like I was a part of the team from day one. So I could totally agree with you both. And we do have a question coming in from LinkedIn. So they say, thank you for your comprehensive presentation. I love the point about ensuring that data entered into HRIS is clean. If an organization incorporates employee self-services, are there additional checks that need to be put in place to ensure that information entered is accurate and formatted correctly?
Yes, absolutely. So you can set up rules on like restrictions and of what they can enter or have approvals that go to like the manager for approval on that update. So absolutely, yeah, because you don't want to just have the employee have access to putting in whatever information that is. And then also visibility onto what that information is too. So that setting up workflows of approval and user permissions on what people can do and cannot do and can input as well. So that is definitely a control mechanism that most HR vendors should have within place.
Yeah. And audits, I would say it's very important to like audit your information on a quarterly basis. One audit that I highly recommend my clients is a vacation audit, especially around this time of the year. Have people in your team, in your company taken, 50% or more time off by now? Because too many times we run into situations where someone's not booked any vacation, right? And they may get lost in the system. And here comes November and they've now booked 6 weeks in a row. And it's like, well, we kind of needed you in the last quarter because it's our busiest time, right? So I would say even reporting and auditing of information helps managers understand where we're at from a vacation standpoint, employee data standpoint, and time.
I also think like even from day one, if you are looking at making a change, if you have great reporting, do a good data cleanse, right? Leverage an HR expert like Anna's team there to cleanse that data before inputting it into a new system, right? You don't want to bring in old data that's like irrelevant or yeah. So definitely do a good data cleanse before a new system comes in.
All right, phenomenal.
Awesome.
Thank you both so much. Those are all the questions that we have for you both today. So I want to thank you all again for attending this presentation, and we hope you found this presentation very informative. And thank you to our community for joining us today and for us asking such great questions. We genuinely appreciate your participation. As a reminder, a recording of the session will be made available for viewing afterwards. And if you would like more information on the topics that we have discussed today, you can visit the Max People and the Humi by Employment Hero website or reach out to our team. And please keep an eye out for future invitations from Max People and their upcoming events. And also stay connected with us by following the Max People and Humi by Employment Heroes LinkedIn pages to stay up to date on all things HR and tech. Thank you everyone so much again for joining us today. And we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Bye. Bye, everyone.